With military.
Thank you.
Wei, let's talk about Iran and China. This is a very interesting situation brewing here. Now, Geithner is in Beijing. He's trying to get the Chinese to play ball in Iran and to observe the sanctions that the U.S. wants to impose so they keep the Iranians from enriching uranium. Whether that works or doesn't work is debatable. But it seems to me that what China can do in this position is they've got an opportunity to sort of play the good cop to the U.S.'s bad cop on Iran, right? I mean, if the U.S. sort of comes in and says, look, no oil is coming out of Iran, China can go in and strike a bargain with the Iranians for cheaper oil.
I don't think that's what's happening, where China has reduced the purchase from Iran over some purchase disputes. But that's not about price. It's actually about some minor issues like a pay agreement. So China has already agreed to 2/3 of the purchase agreements with Iran.
Okay, but now they can scratch that agreement and come up with a new one. They've got Iran over a barrel, so to speak, right?
China can't afford to do that politically or economically.
Why not?
So economically, in the short term, if it tries to take advantage of Iran by driving down prices. So first of all, it remains if Iranians will be agreeing to it. From the past, Iranians are very strong negotiators. And if you look at China's history in negotiating other purchases, say iron ore, it's the biggest buyer in the world, yet every time it struggles.
That should give it all kinds of leverage over the Iranians, right?
Why wouldn't it?
Well, the Iranians are looking at lower purchases from the rest of the world. They're going to be desperate to raise hard currency. China's now in a perfect position to go and negotiate a better deal from the Iranians.
I don't think that's going to be so easy. But even if it happens, it's not good for China, because China will just increase the dependence on Iranian oil at that time that Iran is going to have probably even military trouble with the U.S. So it's really not a good time to further increase the dependence. If it doesn't do that, China may struggle to fill in the void, to buy it from other places.
That's an interesting idea. I mean, I think it's true that in the short term they can make a tactical advantage by getting cheaper oil, but in the long term they sacrifice their own independence on energy because they increase their dependence on Iran. Also, I think the diplomatic angle is important here because if they go and antagonize the U.S. During election year, that's going to be dangerous for China diplomatically. But longer term, I think it's time for China to start thinking about what role it wants to play in the international community as an international citizen. For a long time, they've arbitraged, the Soviets versus the U.S., or the U.S. as the global policeman. And now maybe what they ought to do, if they're going to try to inherit the baton as a global police officer, maybe what they ought to do is try to get with the program and play ball on Iran. The other thing about that region, it's important, is I know that the Chinese are investing more and more in the Middle East, and a lot of the countries they're trying to invest in are Sunni countries like Saudi Arabia. Taking Iranian oil and pleasing Ahmadinejad is only going to antagonize the Sunnis in the region. So this is an opportunity for China to sort of get on board with both the U.S. and with the other parts of the region that have just gone through a major political uprising and are now looking at Syria as the flashpoint in all this. So maybe diplomatically it's worth China taking a sacrifice on Iranian oil for the longer-term diplomatic good.
China is not doing this for the money. I think China, is already paying attention to the political pressure. In the past, China has already agreed 4 times with the UN sanction. What China wanted to do is for the UN to have a multilateral decision on Iran, rather than the US, as you were saying, playing the global police. I just don't think playing with the US means playing ball.
So then where does this leave China then?
China is stuck in a rock and a hard place on this issue.